In Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, which is a 3 DVD set totaling almost 300 minutes, it's almost an exhaustive presentation of what I discuss in Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural. We start off with getting the viewer, the listener, to understand that supernatural events have happened in the past. In other words, there's a phrase that I bring the person back to over and over and over again throughout the book and, of course, in the presentation. And it's this: the present political landscape is in direct correlation to supernatural events that happened in some cases millennia ago. What do I mean by that? There are supernatural events that have colored the body politic, shaped and colored the body politic. The examples I will use is that America is basically a Christian nation. People will argue with that, but the bottom line is this: we believe in Christmas. We celebrate Christmas. We also celebrate Resurrection Sunday, which erroneously we call Easter. That's another story. But all these celebrations are based on supernatural events. Example, Christmas is based on the virgin birth of the God-man, Yeshua, Jesus. Resurrection Sunday, or erroneously called Easter, is based on the resurrection of this same God-man who rose from the dead after his crucifixion, and 3 days later he rose again. So these are supernatural events, and they have shaped and colored the body politic. That's obvious. We celebrate, this is a national holiday on Christmas. So while we might not believe that the supernatural is manifesting today, we've shaped our entire culture. Similarly, let's say in Israel, they celebrate the Passover, a 4,000-year-old supernatural event that is shaped and colored the body politic. In Iran, they believe in Muhammad receiving the Quran. Sharia law is from the Quran. So we see that supernatural events, and I don't agree that they're similar to our supernatural events, but nonetheless, supernatural events have shaped and colored the body politic in Iran, so much so that now Sharia law dominates that entire country. So from there, once I get a person to understand that supernatural events have happened in the past, that begs the question: if these events happened then, supernatural events, are they happening now? And of course, the resounding answer to that is a yes, a huge, big yes, because I believe these events, supernatural events, are manifesting on the planet. We go into the prophetic after that, which discusses ancient prophecies written in the guidebook of the supernatural, i.e. the Bible, which are now coming to pass. Certainly Ezekiel 38, Psalm 83, Isaiah 17. Shorthand for a confederacy of nations that surround Israel in the latter days, Ezekiel 38, and come up against her. Psalm 83, a confederacy of nations, Arab nations only, that attack Israel, and Israel responds and expands her borders. Isaiah 17, which states that Damascus is a ruinous heap. So we see these prophecies that have laid sort of dormant for thousands of years, and yet now in the political scene we see those very players that these prophecies name with great specificity coming into the fray, coming in. The stage is being set, and it looks like there's going to be a battle. And maybe by the time this thing airs, we've already seen Ezekiel 38, that horrible war in the Middle East. And I believe it's sooner than later. So from there we go into the supernatural, and we look and discuss, and this might sound a little bizarre to you if you've never traveled in this stuff, but I assure you that the phenomena is real. It is happening. We discussed the cattle mutilations. Cattle are being abducted off farmers' fields in the middle of the night. They are found the next day. They're drained of blood. Flesh has been excised with laser-like surgical precision. And the carnivores or scavengers like coyotes and vultures won't touch the carcass. Strange stuff. We also discussed the so-called alien abduction scenario. And what we do is we weave all this and tie it back to Scripture. Remember, these are not extraterrestrials. These are interdimensional beings which are doing this. I tie all this back into Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. That's sort of the basis of the politics, prophecy, and the supernatural. And it begs the question, again, if these supernatural events happened in the past, which we as Christians believe they all did, what's to say that they're not happening now? And of course, I believe that they are happening now. So politics, prophecy, and the supernatural is a hard-hitting expose of what is happening in the political, the supernatural, and the prophetic, and how they all intersect together, weave together, dovetail together to paint this very, very, I would say, alarming picture of what is about to manifest here on planet Earth. Today, we will be speaking specifically from politics, prophecy, and the supernatural. All the research that went into the Nephilim trilogy and in the alien interviews sort of wound up in PP&S. That's a lot easier than saying politics, prophecy, and supernatural every time. So when I refer to PP&S, that's what I'm talking about. A couple of things. I call the Bible the guidebook of the supernatural because Bible just means book, and what I believe it really is a guidebook to the supernatural. And I don't mean that in an occult way or a New Age way. I mean that in a biblical way, because when Jesus walks on water, how much more supernatural do you want to get? When you get a virgin birth, how much more supernatural? And we'll talk about that. And we're in for a ride. It takes a while to download this information to you. It's almost exhaustive in the sense that the presentation can go easily 5 to 6 hours. Sometimes I do it in 4. Sometimes I do it in 6. It just depends on how many rabbit trails I go down and how the Spirit sort of directs. It's different every single time I do it. Sometimes I read from the notes. Most of the time it's not scripted. I mean, if you came up here and looked at the PowerPoint, there is a slide maybe with a one-liner to sort of keep me on track. So it's really different every time I do the presentation. The other thing is the world is always changing. The climate is always changing, specifically in the Middle East. Stuff happens there all the time. And, you know, since the last time I was here, so much has happened, and we're going to talk about that. So let's get into it. And I'm going to run this beginning maybe at least twice. So just pictures will say 1,000 words. Is there a war coming in the Middle East? Are we headed toward a one-world government, a one-world religious system? Will America be attacked again? Do ancient prophetic texts warn of a time we are living in? Are we living in the last days, the time of Jacob's trouble, the end of the world as we know it? And what are the increase of UFO sightings? While we may disagree as to what is causing the phenomena, we can agree that it is real, burgeoning, and not going away. Is this the coming great deception that ancient prophecy warns us about? Does time seem to be accelerating? And that is our world. That is the globe we are living in. I would like to tell you that it's not, but unfortunately it is. And most of those pictures were taken this year, and some of them just weeks ago. That's the world that we live in. I'm going to run that probably every session because it takes less than a minute to run, and it says so much, and it impacts us, lest we forget what time and what season we're in and what is going on this planet. Because it's alarming, in my opinion. But we've not been given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. When you see these things begin to happen, look up, because your redemption is coming. Jesus is coming back. When you see what things? Wars and rumors of wars, famines and pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, and troublesome times. And so you have to weed through some of this information yourself and decide for yourselves, are we really in the last days? Are we in the time, approaching the time of Jacob's trouble? Are the signs here, or is it just business as usual? Recently, I was on the George Norrie show, and I spoke for 3 hours with George, and he asked me a bunch of questions. And the whole idea, the whole concept of that 3-hour train ride with George was basically, is it business as usual, or are these events globally signs of what is coming? And, you know, George is sort of a chameleon. Whoever the guest is on, he sort of sides with them, and that's what he should do. He's a great host, and I love being on his show. It's always, and we have a real rapport. And of course, the day after, I get like 1,000 emails. Good luck with that. Some of this stuff gets really dark and weird. If I see you starting to go like that at some of the slides, I will remind you that we've not been given a spirit of fear, but of love and power and a sound mind. And we need to walk in that. And that's not just an idle, it's just not an idle phrase that I'm throwing out because it's like, you know, I want to I have something to say. I mean, it's a weapon that, you know, when we feel fear, we are to say, I have not been given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind, because I'm a born-again person and spirit-filled, and I'm going to walk in that no matter what's going on around us. And that's what we need to, you know, because some of this stuff is really dark. And report back. And I'm going to arm you with information. So when you see these things, or you're at the workplace and someone goes, wow, all these earthquakes, man, this is really getting weird. And you can go, well, and you have an answer to them. You can talk about, you know, it says in ancient manuscripts. See, if you're talking to a New Ager, if you're talking to someone who believes that, you know, you say the word Bible and it's like, you say the word Jesus and it's like they're headed out the door, right? So you can't go there with them yet. So you open up the conversation by saying, and this is just being smart. You know, it's not being, LA, you're being deceptive. No, I'm not. I'm speaking to those who need to hear it in a way that they can hear it. I'm speaking to the language of the people. I don't need to talk Christianese to people. I can just tell them very simply, you know, ancient texts written thousands of years ago talk about earthquakes in diverse places. And they'll go, really? Wow. And you can even say something like the guidebook of the supernatural. When I'm on George Norrie's show, I always call the Bible, I always call it the guidebook of the supernatural. And so, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's a crack up. The next day we'll get at least a dozen emails from people. I'm looking for the guidebook of the supernatural. Where do I buy it? And then we can write back. You see, so people are hungry. People are hungry. And then when you tell them it's the Bible, like 90% of them go, ugh. But maybe the 10% will actually crack it open, because all the information that we're talking about is biblical, except for the book of Enoch. And I'll give a caveat. When I start talking from the book of Enoch, I will tell you that it is from the book of Enoch. And you can judge for yourself. I'm not saying the book of Enoch is canon or part of the scripture, but we certainly can appreciate its historicity. And already I wasted 10 minutes and we're not even on the first slide. So we better get going or we'll be here till tomorrow or something. Politics, prophecy, and the supernatural. There's a sentence, a quote that's in that I will bring you back to over and over and over again. I wish I was smart enough to write that quote, but when I was working on this book, and this might sound creepy, I mean, I don't know. For those of you who are spirit-filled and travel in the gifts of the Holy Spirit, then this shouldn't be creepy at all. But I believe this quote came from the throne room. It's like, yeah, because I'm not that smart. I'm really not. And I'll show you the quote in about a second. Ta-da! Whoops, stop it. Where are we? Oh, sorry. Here we go. The present political landscape is in direct correlation to supernatural events that happened in some cases millennia ago. That's the whole book right there. That's the whole book. And I believe the Lord gave me that because it sums up the essence of the book. The present political landscape is in direct correlation to supernatural events that happened in some cases millennia ago. Okay, what do I mean by that? And we need to walk through this. We celebrate Christmas. Now, caveat. Christmas on December 25th is not Jesus' birthday. It's actually a celebration of the Saturnalia, which stems back way back into pagan Babylon. So it's a false Babylonian religious system which was coupled into the church because of the Roman holidays. It also coincides with the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the Yule log, Christmas trees. All this stuff is steeped in paganism. It has nothing to do with Christianity. Absolutely nothing. Jesus was not born on December 25th. Sorry to disappoint you. But unfortunately, it's been coupled with the church, and so we just all celebrate it. So I'm not going to be a spoilsport and say, you know, don't celebrate Christmas. It's kind of a fun time of the year. But make no mistake about it, in some ways, and we, you know, my wife and I, it's really weird, without ever discussing it, we haven't had a tree in about 2 or 3 years, and we really don't celebrate it anymore. We don't. Because all that stuff, it's fun, the lights, the tree, it's all pagan nonsense. It has nothing to do with anything. Now, there's a crest there and it all reminds us of you know, the Lord, that's one thing. But make no mistake about it, that the Yule log, the tree, the giving of presents, the mistletoe, it's all steeped. Every bit of it is steeped in the Babylonian religious mystery school. And, you know, some people, when I start, oh, you're just a Grinch, LA. You're just ruining Christmas for everybody. Stop it. And I realize that it can be demoralizing as some of you hear, but I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. I love it too. It's great. You know, Bing and snow and the whole deal. It's just wonderful. But and you can celebrate it if you want to and be free, but know and understand that it is based on Mystery Babylon. If you want to read about it, there's a book by Hislop called The Two Babylons, and you'll find it absolutely fascinating to how all this nonsense came into the church. Because and this is why I object to it, because what it does is it obfuscates the real deal. It takes us away from real biblical Christianity, first century Church of Acts Christianity, and moves us into this false, fuzzy, weird deal that has nothing to do with anything. Like I said, Jesus was not born on the 25th, Christmas trees, Yule logs, mistletoes. All this stuff is all man-made gobbledygook and has nothing to do with what we believe. But the bottom line is this: we do celebrate Christmas. What are we celebrating? In fact, it's a national holiday in this country, right? Everybody takes off, except Home Depot. You want to talk about Grinches? Getting the last dollar, squeezing the last dollar. So, let me get a slurp here. What are we celebrating? We are celebrating the virgin birth of the God-man, Yeshua. Yeshua is a Hebrew name for Jesus. We're celebrating the virgin birth of the God-man, Jesus. Now, here's the first question. Is that supernatural? Of course it is.